Welcome to the Grappling Physio podcast, episode 38. And I have the great pleasure of being joined by Victor Estima today. Victor, how are you?
Hello, Paul. I'm very well. Thank you very much for the invitation. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Happy to be here and share this moment with you guys.
Like I was just saying before we hit the record button, it looks like you're in a really kind of big corporate setting at the moment. So is this the headquarters of Gracie Barra in Europe?
Well, this could be it. This is actually our meeting room. We have the map over there that reminds us all about the responsibility that we have as a Gracie Barra regional office to the bigger organization. It reminds that we're not alone. We're part of a big team, and it motivates, inspires just by looking at it. And this is something we have. This is we at the moment at GB where I have this room here as a place where Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu, which is the school owners from the area, can come in. We have meetings here ever so often to connect with the school owners, and this is a place where it can also have the same feeling. And the design team made a really nice wall. They actually made it look super nice. It's not a huge corporate office. It's just our nice room, well designed, I believe. I think this is we're proud of that little wall. It took some work to get it done, to be honest.
It looks
We
good.
had to use like a micro cement on the background, so it's like a different kind of a gray tone that is in line with our branding as well inside the team. So we were bringing the different color tones. And I don't know if you noticed the Gracie Barra logo. It's where we spend most of our red now. So our red color is dedicated 100% to the logo, not to the environment. So it's nice strategies from the design team in Gracie Barra. That's really made us look a little bit more modern. So we're happy with it.
It's very difficult to find out where to start with you, Victor, but I know recently you've moved to Portugal. How are you getting on out there?
Paul, it's been an incredible journey here coming to Portugal. A lot of people have asked me this question about why Portugal and everything, and I believe that after so long being in the United Kingdom, it's been 18 years. There's a lot of responsibilities that I carry on continuing to develop the team across the region of Europe. As you know, the Brexit happened, so it does a lot of changes that cause that political situation that we needed to address. So coming to Portugal represented the continuation of the Gracie Barra entities on the European countries, support that we needed to provide, as well as to the team in the UK, taking that we have been so for much longer in the United Kingdom, well established as an office. So we have a really big team already there that I could then spend time in a different region, dedicating my time and energy to help this location, which is Portugal became the place, right? Portugal is a very beautiful country, and on the top of that, so it's kind of the cherry on the top of the cake. Massive change. It's all for the greater good, but it happened to be a very beautiful place, warm, nice people, and great location over here.
Good. How are you feeling since you moved there?
Uh, you know, I miss a lot of things about the United Kingdom. Believe it or not, every time I say this to people, because they all think about the UK as it's cold and hard, like a very frenetic kind of place. And I enjoyed my time, my life in the United Kingdom. I grew as an adult, as a man in the United Kingdom. I arrived when I was only 19 years old. So I grew to like so many things about the UK. So I miss my friends. I miss even the smell of the mist in the morning when you wake up and it's like a nice and cold, that fresh cold. I enjoy it. Of course, nobody likes the constant cold weather, but I enjoy so many elements of the UK. But Portugal is just a very different place, and it's different on the way like management, and the country is not as well supported for impreneur. I got the word wrong now.
Infrastructurally?
No, it's like the entrepreneurism. There we go. I got it right. It's a little harder to develop businesses and structures because there's more bureaucracy. So that is challenging on that side. But at the same time, we have a very dedicated and motivated group of people with jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu community is very lively here, very, very much so. There is a lot of jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of Gracie Barra schools already in Portugal. So I feel like it's been a very positive change for me, especially in this time of my life, because I could connect as well with my parents. I left Brazil when I was only a young, like late teens, and I had mom, dad, so many people in my life that I could not see or meet in a regular basis. But my parents being here, it was like a cherry on top of the cake as well, because almost like my whole life pointed out for me to come to Portugal at this time. Like since the pandemic, if you could remember the hurdles and the struggles that we had gone through. But even that moment allowed us to kind of restart in a new way. So my connections with Gracie Barra Nottingham, which is in the school that I run for many years, I could restart in a very different way. So it's a combination of factors: Brexit, pandemic, massive change of life, dedication to the team as a whole, and responsibility to help the other countries in Europe to develop as well as the UK has been developing. And then they all pointed out to Portugal. Portugal, it was the place. My parents, they are separated for many years, and they both came to live in Portugal randomly with no influence of mine or my brothers, and they happened to be here while I was in a major change of life because of the Brexit, and I had to make adjustments for the entities. Then we were already in a moment where Gracie Barra is so well established in the UK that we will continue to be supported by the great team that we already have. So there will be a moment where I could go to a new location. GB Nottingham, it was just in a place where I had major instructors for many years. So Professor Sean Coates, he's been with me since he's 16 years old. He now is a world-class competitor, great teacher. He's being formed in GB Nottingham, and now he's in position to take over from me. So many different elements had to happen to allow me to move, and all happened round about the same time. And that pointed out very strongly, this is the direction. So I really felt the energy, felt that was the right thing to do. And I really feel like it's my next chapter, right? I consider this a lot because I'm very committed person to the people around me. I always have. And I had this opportunities in the past to go to different countries and for great opportunities, but I felt this responsibility to the United Kingdom because it's the place that received me and gave me opportunities. So I stayed there for as much as I could to make sure that jiu-jitsu that I was invested, the jiu-jitsu's development that I was committed to do. It was all about the city of Nottingham and the UK as a whole, helping as much as I could. And I didn't want to create something that would finish straight away. I wanted to create something that doesn't matter if I'm dead or not, it'll be self-sustainable. You'll be providing opportunity for generations to come. So everything that I did was thinking about sustainability. And so I'm very happy to see that even though I've been here in Portugal for over a year, and I can see that the school that I was involved is getting stronger. The Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu is getting stronger and stronger in the United Kingdom. We have bigger events, stronger projects happening all the time. And for me, it's like a kind of happen all at once, but it's been like a long time coming at the same time. It's been something that we've been developing for so long.
Oh, good for you. I got a couple of questions. So, when you speak Portuguese in Portugal, do locals know that you're actually Brazilian? Can they pick up on that?
100%. They probably can see that I'm Brazilian just by the way I look, I think, or walk. It's
And what about your kids? Did you speak Portuguese to them from an early age? So are they picking up the languages quite easy as well? Or?
One. My older son, Vincent, he's 12 now, and he didn't really speak much Portuguese at all. My wife she's Polish, so we spoke English all the time at home and in schools. And I was traveling a lot in the early stages of his life, and then it was hard for me to implement Portuguese. My youngest son, he didn't speak much Portuguese either because he just followed the process, right? In the family, there's the English is the main language. I tried a little Portuguese here and there, but never really serious. And then when we moved to Portugal, there was a massive shock for them. And they're familiarized with a little bit of Portuguese, but completely different accents. So they completely got thrown off. And my youngest son, he goes to a Portuguese school only. So in the beginning, he got really worried and he got a little bit tense and stressed. He was crying because he didn't know what was going on. And then every week was going by and he was feeling more confident. And within 3 months, he was speaking Portuguese. And he speaks Portuguese with a Portuguese accent, like a perfect local accent.
Wow.
My older son, he goes to international school here because he needs to keep his education as he was a bit older. And most schools here are private schools as well. There's a lot of private tuition here, which is, you know, we provided like a bit of better opportunities for your children. So we got the opportunity to put him in international school. So he speaks Portuguese like a second language, learning how to speak Portuguese. So he's improving. But for them was no massive change. It was major, like mostly learning for the first time for real, for both of them. So they're just going through the adaptation process now.
I think it's quite something serious you definitely have to consider and think about, especially with the age of your children. Whenever you are moving, the disruption that it can kind of cause, and then to throw in another language as well. If we think back to when you first moved over, what did you say you were 18, 19?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't speak any English.
I heard, actually, I got a story from when I interviewed Stuart Gwilt. He said that you turned up, you had long hair. He said you looked like a lion.
Yeah, I had a big set of hair. I remember those days. And
And he said,
when Professor Stuart would still look like a David Beckham.
yeah, and he said your English wasn't great, so you had to go through all that by yourself. And now, since you've settled and become very much anglicized, you've gone back to kind of continental Europe and almost had to start again with the kids. And it's a big move. So I do commend you for doing and being able to do that. It's not easy. And I think when people look and think, oh, the grass is so much greener on the other side, there are aspects that when you're probably in the UK that you don't appreciate. Like what you said about the smell, the dew in the morning, waking up and having that freshness, that cold, especially at the winter time. You're probably not, you probably don't really appreciate it till you go away.
Yeah, the
And
little things. The little things, Paul. Like, for example, Christmas time, German markets all over the UK, and you go there, have mulled wine with your friends, and you hang out, go to each other's house. You go over there for a nice Sunday dinner, Yorkshire pudding. I love those things. We try to replicate this in my house with my boys, because even though they are children of two foreign immigrants, they actually grew in a British culture. And they miss that too. So we keep so much of the British culture in our lives, and this
that's
is what
nice.
we miss most.
That's
That's
nice
what we
to
miss
hear.
most.
When you first came over, Victor, what was that like? Because that is such a big move. I mean, I was 18 myself when I was in the army, and I got posted to live in Germany, and I was there for 5 years. But I had quite a good support network, but it was quite a daunting experience. You didn't really have that, and you kind of came at such a young age, which is a real turning point in your career. You could have chose to go to university, but you decided, right, I'm going to go to the UK. And I think, were you a purple belt when you first came over as well?
Yeah, I just got my purple belt actually. It was a massive move for me. And my brother was already in the United Kingdom, so he was my reference of support. So it was not as bad as for Brownie. Brownie was 22 when he moved. So for me, having my brother really helped. But then the fact was that we were both getting to know everything. So we were both in the kind of the same place, not speaking properly the language, not knowing how the country worked. How do you get a house? How do you get a bank account? How do you get a mobile phone? Simple things like that was a very challenging thing. And on the process of learning English, I remember me struggling, trying my best to speak my broken English. And not everyone has the patience to listen to you. And it's really hard. And you feel like you've been a burden and you're really trying your best. And you have to come out of that feelings that you have, like you're cautious and worried what other people would think about you. So there was like a lot of processes, to kind of belong. That's the first thing is to adapt, to get to know how the country works. But then later, when you get to speak the language, you need to understand humor, mentality, culture. You need to understand how to, pass across what you want to say in a way that is relatable to the people around, but you never really had any experience with the culture. So you go through many different stages of development within the new country. So now I know I can make a joke in English because I understand the mentality of the English public. I know the differences between the Scottish, the Welsh, and the English, and all the history behind. And you can have a common joke. You can have a break the ice by talking about the weather, for example. This is like very British thing to do. You need to know how to make a really good cup of tea. I made sure that I learned to do a very good cup of tea when I received people in my house. But without losing the essence of who you are as well, because on the top of that, you can actually be yourself, but also embracing the new culture. It's been like coming out from Brazil. It was like a huge shock of culture, mentality. I grew so much. I have so much to thank for the opportunities and the people I've met through my time in the UK, because it really made who I am today. My open mind mentality, looking to other ways of living. When you come out as a young boy, you only think Recife, northeast of Brazil. You like such a small location, thinking a very particular way. Suddenly, you're in one of the countries in the middle of the world, where you learn a language that can relate across the whole globe. You can, with English, you talk to Americans, Australians, Europeans, Asian. You can basically get a ticket to get to know the world. When you have one language and you just speak to your local people, you don't get to see that. You don't get to be part of something bigger. It really gave me a window to the world when I came to the UK. Show me that I can achieve things and do things that I could never imagine doing where I came from. So it's the same now when I come to Portugal, understanding all those things, right? I understand what it takes to be in a different place. So for me, I have no fear. I lost my fear when I was 19. So, and also know whatever changes will happen to my family, you change for the better, because I know that we will be resilient. And as a parent, as a husband, I'll be here for the family to try and support as much as I can. And my wife also immigrated, so we are both together very well understanding of how it is to immigrate. So our children is getting better every year. But for those who are listening to us, and if you ever wonder what it is to travel and go to a new place, it doesn't get easy straight away. First, you need to grind. You need to grind on making friends. You need to grind and understand the area, the language, the places that are nice to go. How to use the health services, how to use transportation, how to use everything. But after you go past the hard work, then you can enjoy more to be outside.
I think there's some parallels there, Victor, to starting BJJ for the first time, isn't it?
No, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Were,
Like,
were there any moments when you first came over that were pivotal turning points where you thought, I'm going back to Brazil, I'm going to surf, I'm going to be by the beach, I'm just going to chill? There must have been a time where you just thought, you know what, sod the UK, I'm off.
no, to be honest, Paul, I'm a very committed person. I'm a very committed person. I That was not even one single question in my brain whether I was gonna make it or not. I knew I was gonna get through whatever needed to go through, because when you're coming from a place where you made a choice in jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu was the question: university or jiu-jitsu? I made that question before I moved to the UK. Well, why I did move to the UK for the first time. When I decided to make jiu-jitsu my way of living, that was it. I turned the key. That is no way back. It will happen no matter what. And the hardship only fueled my willingness to go and achieve and to establish my thoughts and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew jiu-jitsu was going to be what it is. I had opportunities to go to different places, and I wondered. And I agree with the fact that I wonder what would be if. I went to the United States and lived in California in the golden years of jiu-jitsu there, because I was already in a position where, for example, Professor Romulo Barral came over to spend over 8 months with us before he moved to Hollywood in the United States. I didn't even have my own school. You know, I saw him a few years later. He established his schools. He did what he did. Now he's got an incredible project in Hollywood. He does incredible. You know, and he's trying to find his way. He almost got a working visa to stay in the UK. And then I was thinking, maybe I can. I got opportunities to go, especially when I was opening my own school in Mansfield. And then my business partner kind of made it difficult for me at the time. I felt like I was being taken advantage of, and then I lost my school and I had to restart everything. And that question came in my head. You know, I have opportunities, I've got connections. I was already multiple times bronze medalist in the worlds, and I won major titles. And I could have gone to California, and I got an offer to go to California. You know, at that time, exactly when I was at my lowest point. And my friend Jerry, he had two schools, Gracie Barra Arcadia, Gracie Barra Huntington Beach, who he was going to sell because he was moving back to Brazil. He's a very close friend, and he made an offer to me. So I would have to go through the process of managing the two of his schools and buy those two schools and live in California. That was an offer for me. And that was a crazy thing, because at that time I had nothing. I lost my school. I had a 1-year-old son, and I really needed the job. I had a great salary offer and the proposition to own the schools there. And I thought, no, I'm not going away, because I already committed to the people that opened their arms to me, the students that I taught so far, that put faith in me. Now, because I have a little better proposition to go somewhere else, that means, what does it talk about my integrity as a person, the commitment that I have for the people who put the energy and time, they travel to see me. That was the only time I actually thought about it, because I was in a very difficult place. But straight away, the answer was no. I will build my reality where I am with the people that accepted me, and I will go to see where this goes. That was in 2011. Fought ADCC in 2011, fought the world's no-gi, the Europeans, the Pan Americans. I got gold in most of them. ADCC, of course, I didn't, but world's no-gi, yes. Europeans, yes. My biggest motivation was, I'm not falling. That was my moment to grow. And that challenge and that question, and my answer made me go all in, you know, to make a reality. And that's how Gracie Barra Nottingham really established itself, and why I stayed. So in my mind, as it was UK all in. And that's why leaving to Portugal was the biggest move in my life out of Korea. And it was only explained to come here because I am not moving away. I'm looking for continuity. I'm looking to continue to develop myself who I am today, because that's always been my motto. Push myself to the furthest I can be. Help others on the process. So if I stayed in the same place, helping, for example, if I stayed in Gracie Barra Nottingham teaching every day, and that's all I did was teaching at my school, I would not be a provider of opportunities to the people in my own school and in Gracie Barra UK and in other locations, because I took that on my shoulders to provide more opportunities. So if I sit in the same place and don't provide opportunities underneath underneath me, we'll be limited. So it always been my motto. So I feel like even though being in Portugal, it doesn't mean I'm not supporting the UK. I am supporting in a very different way today. And I'm still going back and forth in the UK to be part of the community. I just now have a different home address.
Yeah.
But I'm now working and being part of the development of Jiu-Jitsu in the UK.
I mean, just on your kind of like competition record, I was doing some research on it earlier. You've been competing at a high level for the last 20 years. You know, like from where you were kind of really doing well in success, you know, 2002 all the way through to 2022. I mean, that is phenomenal. How
Thank you.
like I know, and you've explored this on other podcasts recently, where they said, what motivated you to come back and to compete, and you felt a responsibility. What I'd like to get back is what I'd like to ask is a further question. Have you always been competing? I mean, because let's put this out in the open. Your older brother is an ADC Hall of Famer, somebody that was kind of heralded as the grappler of our time. Lots of parallels with him and Hodger. Have you felt like the pressure's always on you to, to keep up to that level? Was that a
100%.
competitive rivalry growing up, or was it a kind of healthy rivalry? And was that something that helped you kind of stay motivated?
You know what? That is a really good question, because I don't think there was a rivalry with my brother, because I never really want to beat him in anything. Actually, I had the opposite feeling to my brother. I respected him, and I was okay to let him get the crown and not actually trying to get one. However, in my competition career, I want to replicate the footsteps of his career. I wanted to replicate, because I knew that somebody so close to me achieved that. Why not me? And for one part of it, being his brother and being under the responsibility and pressure to achieve equal or better, otherwise I would not be validated as a competitor or good enough in my generation. That was an unhealthy comparison that I put myself through for a while, right? And then it was a moment of, growing from that, so I can fulfill the best I can be. And that's what we got to really do. And after so long, being with him, competing on his sidelines, he was helping me a lot. And it was really challenging, but it helped me at the same time, because it reassured me that I could achieve too all the time. I just needed to stick around, train, follow the footsteps, and I would get that. But the fact is, I can never be him. I can never be Roger. I can only be myself, the person who I am, with my own abilities and limitations. And accepting that was the biggest development that I've ever had as a person, not even as a competitor. I started to listen to who I am and trust my own moral codes and my own way of thinking, because before I was making them as I'll follow no matter what. And then hang on a second, maybe I've got my own way here that's not theirs, and I need to really trust that this is a good way for me. So I unleashed myself as a competitor by thinking that way. I became a better performer. I developed myself in a completely different way from all those two references for me. And I'm just started to really notice who I am, not what people expected me to be. And I was accepting whatever that is, because I was no longer hostage of the feeling of comparison. Despite the fact that other people compare, because you cannot stop what other people do. But my validation doesn't come from what I am versus my brother. My validation is who I am and what I'm trying to achieve and why I'm trying to achieve what I do. And I want to be in my own path and make the difference in the best way I can. And this is basically being true to myself. And then I accept myself so well, who I am today, and accept myself, my career, my results. Even the fact that I didn't get so many of those titles that I was initially setting myself for. If you check my record, you will see that it's like 6 bronze medals at the World Championships in the BJJF and 4 in the World Pro, that I came just short of making gold in a gi. And for many, that could be daunting them, like it's a bad feeling. But when I was making the decisions to stop competing without that title that I really wanted to achieve, I had to make a question: how important is that title to me and for the person who I am? What is that title for my validation? Do I truly need to be validated by this title to be as a person? Maybe I am different than just to become a champion. Or is the champion the only way you validate an individual? Is winning that world title is more important than the father, the husband, the teacher, the leader that I am, that I can be. And I started to realize that it was just me listening to what other expected from me and what I felt like I should have without looking the big picture. And I was looking very short-sighted. And then I realized that I could only be as good as I can. When I saw that, accepting the fact that I didn't win, I actually focus on, did I do what it takes to give my best? Did I give my best? Did I pay the price to try to achieve that? I believe so. But there were two criteria that I made myself clear. And it was very conscious, Paul. It was not, I was conscious about the fact of, okay, what do I need to do to achieve that best results that I want to achieve? I need to really dedicate 100% to that. I need to really focus on my condition, my jiu-jitsu technique, my competition experiences. I have to really build myself. But what I'm not willing to compromise. What are my boundaries? And I made very clear my boundaries were my family. I'm not going to compromise my marriage. I'm not going to compromise myself as a father and family figure. I'm not going to compromise the sustainability of my school because of my needs and my personal achievements. I made sure that I'll never leave my school for long periods of time. I made sure that I'll never leave my family for too many periods of long periods of time. And that's what many others around me had to do. Move, go to the United States, train for three months. I never left more than 2-3 weeks. That was 2-3 weeks. 3 weeks, I don't think I've ever done. Maybe once in a lifetime. Every time was like a 2 weeks max. I would be going prepare 1 week before, compete for another week, and then come back. So I kept my preparations. I kept my dedication to the max without compromising these two major elements in my life. And I agreed with myself, whatever comes out of that effort, I was going to be okay. And so that means that was me making peace to whatever happens. And then I did push further in the last 2 years of my career, still got similar results in titles, but I performed way better. But the titles didn't come. And then when I finished that was like 2015, that was my real last shot. I competed in 2016, but I was no longer there in the mind. I was there just by routine. And it was my last world championships that I really felt like I was going to do it. Did everything. When I finished the fight and I didn't win, there was not one little sadness in my heart. I said, well, that was it. I pushed everything. Absolutely all. I gave all in everything for a long time. It didn't happen. I'm okay with it. I'll make sure I will use my experiences to put in other places in my life. And I competed one more year to make a closure. I didn't even medal in my last year because I was not even that in my mind anymore. I was there just because I had to. And I felt bad that I didn't. And I came back again. I fought the UK Nationals. And then I competed last time with the Copa Podio when I injured my knee in the second match, and I pulled out because I couldn't even stand. Then that was my last tournament as an adult professional, and that was it. And I was already okay with it. And it was like a closing the door, and I dedicated 100% now to the Gracie Barra network, to the team, helping us to develop in that way. So I use all my competitive mindset and dedication, discipline, and hard work to a different thing because I had time to push myself to another avenue. Some people hang on to do the same thing for too long just because they're being hostage of that title they didn't get or that thing they didn't want to achieve. And I was like, I'm bigger than just the medal. I want to make sure that I can be a bigger contributor than just a title for myself. And there was a moment of that I changed the clock. I said, dude, I'm not just a medal. I'm part of the process. I've been trying to become the best I can be for 20 years. I will be the best I can be in everything I've ever touched. Now I just closed the page of being an athlete. Now I will be the best professor I can be. I will be the best father I can be. I will be the best business manager that I can be. And I think that allowed me to develop a different skill set. on that journey transition, I could be focused 100% to a different part of my life, which allowed me to develop new skill set. Today, my identity is no longer being an athlete. I used to feel like my identity as a person is to be an athlete. I'm a competitor. That's who I am. Now, since 2016, my last tournament, official tournament, is already 6 years. And I don't feel like I'm an athlete anymore. I don't define that way. I'm defined more in leadership, mentoring, and business management. And a lover of jiu-jitsu and a facilitator of people's career in jiu-jitsu. That's what I do like 95% of my time. Still training, still pushing hard, pushing the competition team, being a coach, but I'm in a different journey. And I wouldn't be in this journey that I'm really happy that I went through if I didn't accept that first question of yours. Don't compare, be yourself, and find who you really are, independent of any comparison or expectations from other people.
Very good. Victor, can we just pause it there for a second? Well, right. Okay. Sorry about that, Victor. It's just a little editing issue there with Zoom. That was a really, really honest answer, and I really like that, and I really appreciate your honesty, and I think it's something probably people out there, it may be younger brothers who've grown up with such, an older brother with such an influence. It's something that you can kind of get lost in. But I really like your approach and your honesty in saying, it's not necessarily held you down; it's helped you develop in other areas.
That's right.
If we can kind of touch on like your journey in jiu-jitsu, because you've developed and gone so far within Gracie Barra and done so well, and if you think about what Gracie Barra is, okay, it's one of the biggest, most established forms or teams of doing jiu-jitsu, and it's become very systematized, very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Organized business. There's a business element, structured. I think that's the word I was looking for as well. It's very much structured, and jiu-jitsu's come so far, and it's progressed so much from the Gracie family, back in Brazil, and all the developments that it's gone through. I mean, I think it was it this summer or last summer that the email that got circulated by UK Sport, they finally recognized BJJ as an official sport, which opens up the door. I was chatting to Daniel Strauss about this, who sits on the board and the committee. Now this opens up clubs to funding, from sport, lottery funding, sport, etc. So if you think about where Gracie Barra is now as a team, and essentially a business that instructors and jiu-jitsu kind of professors can buy into, and I don't mean physically buy into, I mean can get involved with if they want to represent that team.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about where it is now and where you came from in your jiu-jitsu journey right at the start, can we talk about the differences, or what would you say are the biggest differences in between those two? So from where you started to where you're at now with the clubs.
Like it's a very good question, there, Paul. Imagine when I started jiu-jitsu, Gracie Barra was just a team, a school with the name Gracie Barra in Barra da Tijuca, where was beginning the journey of creating affiliations across Brazil and maybe in some parts of the world. So I started training in the year 2000. Was on a very, very on a golden time of Gracie Barra. And when I say gold, I mean we were the owners. We were the owners of knowledge, because all schools, all people want to learn jiu-jitsu, they had to travel all the way to Barra da Tijuca to learn from the source. And because we had by far the biggest network of competitors and quality in jiu-jitsu. And that is very important to reflect on, that before jiu-jitsu became popular around the world, we went through the phase of proving its efficiency through many different fronts. Through as a self-defense art, be able to defend and overcome different arts. So the Vale Tudo and the Luta Livre and the challenges in the early stages of jiu-jitsu in Brazil. There was a lot of group fights and proving the efficiency of jiu-jitsu. And that culture of proving the Gracie jiu-jitsu was something different. And that's how it used to be called. The family Gracie had to establish the differences between, what we were doing versus what all the other martial arts were doing. And the fact that the Gracies went to United States, to the UFC, Jorge and Gracie created to prove jiu-jitsu against all the martial arts in a big show. And that began sparring up the development of jiu-jitsu and the awareness of it worldwide. And then that was a moment that jiu-jitsu had to prove. So we lived this proving period, like the same as the samurai and in the old ancient history, that we had to prove it's efficient and we are strong. After this is already proven, now it creates something much bigger that we could not think or focus at that time, because the mentality of everybody was to prove how efficient jiu-jitsu is. We had to go through a moment and stop to understand what truly jiu-jitsu is about. The philosophy, the art, the vision, the goals. And most people started to go directed to competition jiu-jitsu, or maybe MMA jiu-jitsu, where they were going through those journeys, which is very great. It's beautiful to see jiu-jitsu developing in the major competitions of the world, in MMA or Brazilian jiu-jitsu competitions, no-gi, whatever you call it, BCC, all those tournaments are incredible. But we all know that majority of people in the world would not be able to compete at that tournament. Majority of the world are people who are working, trying to live a life, and sometimes they're very far away from ability to train, exercise, because they may be stressed. They just work day in, day out, week in, week out. And that is an incredible amount of people that could benefit from jiu-jitsu, but were never been able to benefit because they were not athletes. They were not looking to live jiu-jitsu as a competitor or as a fighter. So the journey of moving from bringing jiu-jitsu only to compete and to prove who is the best and who is the toughest, now jiu-jitsu has a completely different benefit that was not being tapped on, which is the mental health benefits, the jiu-jitsu as a lifestyle, the mentality, the brotherhood, the friendship, the community that's created around jiu-jitsu, and all these incredible elements that we know it makes a bigger difference in people's life than winning a tournament. Because winning a tournament is a selfish act of you proving that you are the best, you want to be the best at that tournament. Even though you can be working as hard as you can with what you've got, independent of comparison, you're still going over there to try to win a match and lift your arm and tap your chest that you did it. It's a very selfish act, which I am very inspired to do it. I did it for so many years, but I'm going to lie to you to think that jiu-jitsu is only that. It's part of jiu-jitsu, but it's not only that. And the biggest difference that Gracie Barra has developed itself to include people who would never think it'd be possible to train or being welcome in a jiu-jitsu school. This week, my mom, she's 60 plus, she started training jiu-jitsu.
You better watch yourself.
Yeah.
Watch
she started
out.
training jiu-jitsu when I never thought my mom would be training jiu-jitsu. Why is it possible that my mom can feel welcome and train jiu-jitsu today when she's already much older than many people that could compete in a major level? Because she's inspired, because she's welcome, she's been included, and the environment is embracing her. And this is happening not only to women like my mom, but women in general. Before, when I was competing, there was no female competing in my school because female was not really welcome, because the mentality was exclusive for physical competitors that can only fight. Now you can see the family environment of a jiu-jitsu school, the inclusiveness, the professionalism behind, the cleanliness, the structure that you mentioned. It gives people the opportunity to go into the journey of jiu-jitsu that they never thought they could one day. And that is much bigger, in my opinion, because we believe jiu-jitsu is an incredible tool to self-development. And now we are offering this to more people, which is also including the athletes and competitors. It's still part of our lives. I still train the competitors in my school. I still prepare them. We got 2 silver medalists at the European Championships, purple and brown belt. Been here only for a few months teaching. And that dedication to competition is there with us, but it's all about also everyone else. How do you know that sometimes if you allow the mentality to go very egotistic, it's very, very, very hard to be around because it becomes toxic. If you have a collaborative mentality in a school and inclusive, and then you can see that people are more welcome and friendly, and as a customer, you can call it customer service, people are treated. Students now are served by the professors. When in the past, students had to serve the professor. That was the opposite around. In my opinion, this is a twisted moral code. Just because you have a black belt in your waist, that means you can dictate and you can be served like you are a god or something special. No, I think the professor is leading by example. He needs to serve, share, collaborate, be kind. But the culture of before was toxic and very egotistic. And that's where it changed. Gracie Barra put it in light in Jiu-Jitsu for everyone and made it structured, made it organized. This is part of a serious organization that wanted to do something great. You go to university. You don't go into university creating a random curriculum. There's a board of people, of professors who, and the system in the government or in the entities of universities that create the structure that they think suits best to achieve the best results for what they're looking for on a professional.
Well, whilst we're on the subject of curriculum, the thing is, if you structure, because essentially jiu-jitsu is a martial art, if you structure a curriculum, are you not at risk of boxing in something that is a form of expression and artistry?
100%. You can look at that possibility when you only look at the curriculum itself. If you look at education, you first need to get your bases and foundations, right? And when you go to become a doctor, you first need to go through the anatomy, understand the name of the parts of the body before you can actually expand on all the things that you need to expand on. And the doctors get to a point after they get their degree, they need to expand information and continue to study and research to continue to evolve. So it's no different with jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu needs to have first a structure that gives people the opportunity to know what is what. So you can have a foundation where you can allow yourself to express. And that is done through the different programs that we have. There's no dictation on what you need to learn in a high-level program in our school. That is only a topic suggestion for the week that is taught in a particular structure. That is freedom for the professor to allow them expressions of their creativity and styles. And we are providing in GB Online different examples and programs from different professors with different creativity to add on to yours. We're constantly reinforcing and helping our professors to learn and develop with the best of our team. So instead of looking into boxing in, we're actually creating a structure that can elevate the teaching act of jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
You can never limit jiu-jitsu through a curriculum. Curriculum only provides structure into a progress, but when you're already done your foundations, you can now have to expand. And now I can tell you, I can guarantee that if you're going to do a GB2 program, it's basically the beginning of something greater. But each professor will be able to add on beyond and beyond and beyond and beyond and beyond. And it's your ability, your skills, and your feelings, your way of art. Jiu-jitsu is a way of art. But even in art, you still need to create some method. So then you can explore the art for what it is, but you already have a method structure that you can express. For example, a painter. You can be doing whatever you want to do. You can create it, but first you need to know how to mix colors. You need to know how to get the pencil, the brushes. You need to know what brush does what. Then you can express. So GB1, it is that.
You've been asked this question before.
And I did have, but I actually explained very different today than ever before.
Oh, there you go.
It's like I'm a very critical person, Paul, about jiu-jitsu. I study deep. I don't say shallow. I would be the first one to criticize the limitation of an art because I am very critical and I'm very expansive thinker in jiu-jitsu. But if I'm going to expand thinking in jiu-jitsu with somebody who's been training for a year, I won't be able to explain that person what I really can.
I like it.
But
Yeah.
if they don't GB1, they don't GB2 for a little while, and they're already now blue belt, purple belt, now we can start talking about how expansive jiu-jitsu can be. And I will talk to a black belt that just got the black belt today, and I can still go again with them. But jiu-jitsu is limitless. It's constantly going, and I'm learning and teaching at the same time. So that's what the beauty is, but it's not limited by the structure. It's actually elevated.
Victor, we're going to have to pause for episode 1 here. I think we're both restricted by time. I could literally talk to you forever, or I could keep asking questions, and I could keep this conversation going. But we are going to have to cap it off, unfortunately. Would you be okay to come back on as a guest again soon?
Of
We
course,
can continue.
That'll be a pleasure.
We could pick up where we left off.
Yes, 100%. Just let's schedule in the time and I come back again.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. I know. Hang on.